Welcome to Pep Talks with Jeanne. I'm your host, Jeanne Pepper. I started doing Pep Talks as a way to inspire you to do intentional acts of kindness and to further the goals of Blaze It Forward. Since Pep Talks began, it has evolved, and now I use it to interview people actively making a difference in this world through their volunteerism, community service, or careers. My guests are all here because they have dedicated their lives to making this world a better place. Join us as we delve into the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of these truly inspiring and hardworking people. This season, we will be focusing on the quiet superheroes, the thoughtful, kind, and forward-thinking community-minded individuals that teach us about resiliency, abundance, and how we can turn trauma, tragedy, and life challenges into meaningful, intentional action to repair our world. Welcome to another episode of Pep Talks with Jeanne. We're back in the studio, and I have with me today Josh Vecchione. Welcome to Pep Talks.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm so thrilled to have you here. I met you through a mutual friend, a reporter at KCAL9, Michelle Gilly, who you've had quite a history with over the last 25, 30 years. Want to tell us about that and who you are?
Yes. Thank you again for inviting me to be here. I'm honored to be here. Michelle Gilly and I had met in 1996. I had a very public custody battle. I am a trans man who had sex reassignment over now about 48 years ago. So you can imagine someone coming from a very New York Catholic background to change that many years ago, had that loving, supportive family that I had. Unfortunately, I was getting a divorce, and my case became very, very public because at that time, it was always legal to have sex reassignment, but nobody ever challenged your parenting rights.
Yeah. And this was in 1996.
1996, yes.
So that was almost 30 years ago.
Yes.
Wow. That
Yes.
was an interesting time. There were a lot of people. I remember I was working at a law firm actually here in Orange County, and we had just lost an attorney who started out working there as a man and decided, I don't know if there was a reassignment, but he decided he was going to start going to work as a lawyer and to court dressed as a woman. And that was like a big brouhaha. Like no one had ever seen anything like this before. He was like over 6 feet tall. And he was starting to come into work in high heels and dresses and a long wig. And, it wasn't well understood. I never saw this, but people would talk about it like it was a weird, strange occurrence. Like, can you believe this happened? And I am so happy that I am now better educated and I am more aware of these issues and what drives people to do things like that. It's not because they want to create controversy or disrupt a workplace, but they're just trying to be authentic. And, that's something that we care about here. We care about authenticity, people being able to live in the right gender assignment. Tell us about that. Like, how did you make that decision?
Well, I always felt it. I would say at the age of 8 was where I just felt I was different. Growing up in New York, we had moved here. Actually, I was born in 56 and we moved here in 1967. I knew at 8 that I was something different. I didn't, with girlfriends, like they wanted to play house or let's do shopping things. I just never fit in. If we did play house, I always wanted to be the daddy. I wanted to be a priest. So I'd set up my piano bench and I would act like I was a priest. And I remember my grandmother, who always lived with us, saying, you can't be a priest, you have to be a nun. And I was like, I don't want to be a nun, I want to be a priest. So I saw things as very male then. I used to like to play hardware store in my garage. Cooking wasn't my thing. I didn't understand why I had to set the table for dinner. I'd rather take out the garbage like my brother. I always had this conflict of who I was. Did not like to wear dresses. In fact, my aunt was a dress designer for Ole Cassini back in the years. And she made my mom's clothes, but she made my clothes growing up. But she always made shorts that went underneath my dresses.
Oh, that's funny.
And that would make me feel more comfortable in wearing dresses.
That's so interesting. I know, like when I think about like my younger years, I was kind of funny about clothes too, and I must have been somewhat of a kind of a tomboy. So I loved wearing. People wore leisure suits in the '70s when I was growing up, and I remember I loved these leisure suits because I didn't have to wear dresses anymore to school. But I mean, I never considered that maybe I would want to be a boy one day. I just liked dressing like one. That was my thing. I guess I outgrew it at some point, but Josh did not.
I did not. Well, it's easier and more acceptable to be a tomboy when you're growing up.
Well, that's what they call it anyway.
Yeah,
right?
they called it then. I was always the tomboy.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're male and you were more feminine, you were a sissy, but that was negative. So that was the difference. Being a tomboy was kind of, oh, yeah, she's just a tomboy.
Yeah.
And they'll grow out of it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
That's explainable.
I didn't grow out of it.
Yeah. There's no such thing as a tom girl.
No. Maybe we need to create a new term. Tom girl. Yeah. So
it's something. So you had this knowledge, you knew that you were different. And we were talking off camera about the fact that you were a prom queen.
Yes.
You in high school. I mean, apparently you outgrew the tomboy clothing because you had to wear a dress to go to the prom, right?
Well, years ago you had a dress code. So I grew up where casual day was Friday, you could wear pants because all the girls had to wear dresses. And they couldn't be shorter than your fingertips. So you only could wear pants on casual day. So that was Fridays. That was like the best day of the week for me was Fridays because we could wear pants.
Wow.
So
and that was in the 60s.
Yeah. And so dressing for me was, my mom and grandmother loved to take me shopping and I hated it because I didn't want the clothes that they would pick out for me.
Yeah.
I would always kind of glance at like the boys section and go, oh, I like those pants or I like that shirt, but I couldn't really say anything about that, so, but yeah, being a prom queen was probably one of the top nightmares of my life. I was class president for 2 years, but I hung with all the groups. So, I had the fear that I might win. And when I got picked for the court, and I thought, oh, God. And I remember going out to shop for that dress with my mother. She was in her glory. And I remember picking out a dress that was more like a Victorian velvet, like kind of Romeo and Juliet look, like covered up from the neck down and the high collar.
Yeah.
I wore Mickey Mouse socks, knee socks up to my knees. And when I did win, I kind of lifted up my dress like,
oh, wow.
And it was difficult, being at the prom. I would rather be in the tux, who I went to the prom with and the king that I was with. I always planned the events, the proms and things that we had. So then I could be active. I didn't have to. I used to always love to dance, but I didn't have to pick someone that was like a date. They were just coming with me.
Just show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So at some point you told your parents that tell us about that. You coming out, telling your parents, it's not just that I'm gay, I'm also in the wrong body. Right.
And that's difficult. The only person I'd say like in high school is my PE teacher.
Yeah.
That I shared with that I had trouble being in PE. I didn't want to be in the locker room. I didn't want to change my clothes or take a shower. And those days that was required.
Yeah.
So you had to do that. And I expressed that. I ended up, because I had asthma, I could do what they called adaptive PE. So I didn't have to change my clothes. And it was when I got out of high school, I actually was teaching guitar and someone took my legs out from underneath me and I ended up being paralyzed. I had spinal shock, cord concussion, a whiplash, and I was paralyzed.
For how long?
And I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. They said I'd never walk again. And at that time, I made my deal with God. If he made me walk again, that I would be a nice person every day. And I would do something out of my way. I was only 18, out of my way every day. And I've continued that promise that I made to this day. And I remember also starting to feel my legs, and I had to learn to walk again. And it was a long struggle. But I think from that, it made me realize, who am I? and I went through a program years ago. They had EST or LifeSpring.
Oh yeah, I know about that.
Remember that?
Yeah, the forum.
So
Yes.
I went through that with a friend. And I remember going in, you had to be at peace of who you were. And I remember my thing was, I think I'm supposed to be a guy.
Oh wow.
And I remember on the last day, I had to come dressed in a dress, nails, fake nails, makeup. And I had to prance around the room saying, I'm a woman and I'm okay. And for me, it did just the opposite. I realized this is not who I am and I'm not okay.
Okay.
And, we didn't have things to research then. We didn't have Jerry Springer, you
didn't have-
right?
yeah, we
You
didn't
didn't
have-
have,
right.
You didn't know the words. You didn't know,
There was no internet.
no, there was nothing.
And,
so
and
I
the
just,
reference librarian
Right?
could not give you anything that would
Right?
explain to you.
so what do
these
you,
things.
what do you do, right? So I remember I went to the Mission Viejo Library.
Right, because that's
and
where you would go.
You would go. And
Yeah.
they have the cards that you would
I know
look
this
through.
is like we're really dating
We're
ourselves
dating
here.
totally how
My
old
gra-
we are, right?
Yeah.
And I'm much older than you. And I remember the librarian, I said I was doing a report on homosexuality because we didn't even have the word gay, right? It was, right? Gay meant you were happy.
People didn't know what it meant.
No, they didn't mean anything.
Yeah, it didn't mean anything.
So she gave me a book, one book in the library, and it said transvestites, homosexuals in it, and transsexuals. And I read the book thinking, okay, that's not me. That's not me. And the last chapter was about Christine Jorgensen, of a male going to female, so a male to female. And I said, oh my gosh, that's me, only the opposite.
Oh, wow.
And it talked about Harry Benjamin, who coined the term transsexual, and about taking hormones. And I remember sitting in the car having that ugly cry, knowing, okay, there's something wrong with me. That's what I thought, but there's a cure for me. And it's almost like that horrible moment you're sick and someone goes, oh, you have cancer, or oh, you have this. You feel relieved that you're not crazy. There is something wrong with you. And that's how I felt. I'm not alone. There's a word for me, transsexualism. That was the word at the time. And I remember being in the car, just the ugly cry going, I'm not alone. There's people like me, only the opposite. I wonder if there's people like me, female to male. And all of a sudden, the puzzle pieces that were floating around all these years of my life, since I'm 8 that I knew it, started aligning together. And I realized, then I went, oh my God, I have to change my sex.
Oh, what a decision to make.
It was
so hard.
That was then the challenge. And then that's how I was brave enough to talk to my parents.
And back then, I mean, there was no insurance to pay for these surgeries.
No, in fact, insurance was written out, especially like Blue Shield.
Yeah.
It said, will not pay for transsexualism
Yeah.
surgery. So it was actually written in that it will not pay for that.
And really, and like, even like, what if you'd had a complication from one of these surgeries? Or what if you had, I mean, and there weren't even like doctors who probably specialized in this yet. Right?
Just a few.
Yeah.
I had to raise the money myself. And different businesses that I did.
Because this was in probably the late 1970s or early
70. I started at 1977.
Yeah.
And I went to Stanford University, but I remember the torment of what to do. And I went to Laguna Beach where I used to hang out, and I sat looking at the water going, what do? I don't know how to live. I don't want to die, but I don't know how to live.
Oh, wow.
And that was that experience of that life and death moment. Do I end my life?
Yeah.
Or do I continue and figure out how to live with this?
The dark night of the soul.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And, something touched me that night to know that God or whoever is not finished with me.
Yeah.
And when I walked back to my car, parked on 3rd Street, there was a business card that was on the ground by my truck.
Of course there was.
And it said, Dr. William Hurd. I had parked right in front of his office. And he was one of the few psychologists that had worked with transsexuals, gender dysphoria, which is the term for us.
What? The card was on the ground?
On the ground, on the sidewalk.
Okay, that can't be a coincidence.
By my car.
This is my thought, that like this, there's like something in this universe that we resonate with.
Yeah, we do. Some divine intervention,
is
whatever label you
something.
want to put it or call it.
There is something, your
yeah.
intention resonated in the universe. and something happened because of that.
It happened. And
That's incredible.
It took me, I remember, time to call the number, the gay community hotline, and said, I think there's something wrong with me. That was the term I used. I didn't know, but I know other people have gone through this. And I remember going down, having an appointment, and them saying, oh, well, there was, he's Dr. Jude Padden now at the time, said, well, there's a group in Laguna Beach, and Dr. William Hurd runs that group.
And you're like, what?
I had a card from him, and he goes, oh, yeah, that's who's doing this now. You'll be in therapy, and that's how I connected with that.
Wow.
So I remember my first appointment
That's so amazing. Really amazing. So I think that's like one of those cosmic signs that you are where you're supposed to be.
And do what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember after going to the first meeting is where I met people like me for the first time. And men going to women, women going to men. There was just two of us.
Of course.
And to meet somebody that felt everything that I felt, even down wanting to be a priest.
Yeah.
You know, it was just amazing. And to have a conversation with someone who knew and felt what I was feeling all my entire life.
Yeah.
And so from there, the next step was tell my parents.
Wow. So you went from being like, I mean, almost suicidal, it sounds like. I mean, and for my listeners to understand, like Josh is vibrant. Josh is so abundant and just so full of love that he wants to share with this world. There's not an ounce of you that would give up your time here. Like to be living authentically now, to have all of the things that you were meant to have, but as a man. And the thought that you could have ended your life because you didn't get the kind of care that you needed in order to make this transition is just astounding to me. How many young people probably have taken that easier route and just ended it because they didn't have it anyone. They weren't even smart enough to think that they could go to a library and research it. And I mean, can you imagine how many people? But it's such a shame. And I'm so glad that people like Josh are speaking out and telling their stories so that we can understand this better as parents, as people, as citizens.
I think that's my passion of why now, because I remember that time.
Yeah.
I remember that dark time. I didn't want to die. But I didn't know how to live. Where do I go? Do I go to Europe? What's a doctor? Where do I go? I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And then telling my parents, you can imagine an Italian,
yes, let's hear
New
about
York
this.
Catholic family.
Yeah.
And my grandmother was the one who understood. My grandmother was always a tomboy, you know. And my mom blamed it on moving to California. Told my dad, all the crazies were here and we shouldn't have moved here. Yeah. Right? And of course my dad's like, oh, Fran, it's not California, right? Like that's how they're talking. And my mom, and we didn't actually, my mom wanted me to go back to New York, wanted me to meet specialists, and I didn't understand that I felt this all my life. And I left the house. We didn't speak for 9 months. I went to live with a friend. Now, coming from a close family, that was another dark time in my life to not speak, to my family. I would drive by the house and look in the windows, and I would see them. And it wasn't until I had my mastectomy that I called and then it was in and out. I was back in my apartment, and I called. I just needed to hear my mom's voice. And she says, what's wrong? And I go, I had a mastectomy. And I heard her scream, oh my God. She dropped the phone. My dad got on the phone and said, you killed your mother. What's going on? And I said, I told my dad, he was always the calmer one, right? And I said, I had surgery. And he said, what do you need? And my mom got back on the phone. And that night, a plate of pasta was on my doorstep.
Oh.
They had my brother bring a plate of pasta. That's what she's worried about. Are you eating?
Of
right?
course.
And that opened the conversation. And for my mom, she felt since I had surgery, now she couldn't stop me. So now they were on board.
Oh. Well, maybe that's advice.
Yeah, she felt that if she said, okay, then I would go ahead with this, but she realized
She couldn't stop it.
she
It
couldn't
was
stop
already
me. So
going.
now we need to be here and support
Well,
him.
in some ways, it's almost like you proved your point by taking that step, that this was not a phase. This was not a silly idea that a teenager could get. This was the real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was not a joke. And it wasn't, you weren't going to change your mind because mom was having a conniption.
Right. She knew
It was a done deal. It's happening.
Yep. And then they never left my side. All my
Yeah.
surgeries, they were right there
Very
with me.
supportive family.
Yes.
Yeah. And, I think that your mom's reaction was probably very typical. Even now, I think, a lot of parents would be very concerned that, is this a phase? And I don't like it when I hear parents say things like that.
Yeah.
I've heard that before, like, when I think it was like Bisexual Day a few years ago, and
Yeah.
some of my friends' kids were posting that they were bisexual. The parents had no idea until they saw this on Facebook, and then it caused, some controversies in the family. And I'll never forget a parent saying to me about this that, oh yeah, it's just a phase. And I thought to myself, it's not a phase. It's not a phase, and accept what this is and what it could be. And if you don't, it's not gonna make it easier for you as a parent.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna change your child's
Yeah,
mind.
yeah.
That's for sure.
And when you have surgery, you have an attorney. You're signing stacks of papers. I must spend 50 stacks of papers. Even if you die on the table, do you want him to finish the surgery? And
That's
I was
a
like,
great question.
yeah. Listen. I was born with a vagina. I want to die with a penis.
Good for
Yeah, so-
you knew.
Yeah. So yeah, keep going. Keep going.
I paid for this.
Yeah.
I want it all.
Keep going.
It's on. I'm wearing a tux, damn it.
Yeah. Put me in the tux. Put me in that tie.
Wow. That's really interesting. And then after your recovery, your parents were with you throughout your recovery.
Yes.
And you just got up out of bed and just started living your authentic life.
I did, and it was for the first time that I felt this peace. I felt that when I took off my clothes, I didn't have to hide, and it was unexplainable. I mean, the surgeries are not easy to go through. It took me 3 years to raise the money, do different jobs and I even had a cleaning business.
I mean, Josh is a very industrious individual. I mean, I've seen your resume. I'd actually like to go through your resume because I don't think our our followers understand how industrious Josh is.
Yeah.
Josh, when he went to college, studied deaf studies. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went on to start a deaf theater company.
Yes.
And you were the artistic director of a deaf theater company for like, what, 25 years?
10 years for Quiet Zone Theater.
10 years for Quiet Zone Theater. You have also been the commissioner for Mission Viejo. What commissioner? Explain that position.
So I was appointed, this is my third term. It's a 2-year term. I was appointed by the city council as city commissioner for community services.
Okay. And we'll get into why that happened. Mm-hmm. You also were a funeral director.
Yes.
Yes.
When my dad passed, being from a theater background, they said this was the best funeral. Would you ever want to be a funeral director? At first, I said, no, that's like just really odd. And I thought about it, and for 7 years, it was one of the most rewarding jobs I have ever done, because you are totally in service for someone at the second worst day of their life.
Yeah.
The first is the death, of course, and then it's to get them through a funeral. And because I lived in the Mission Viejo since 1967, either I knew someone or they knew me. So you become that comfort. I'm here to take care of you today.
Yeah, I could see that you would be a very nice person to have.
Yeah.
You've also owned businesses. You've owned a toy store.
Yes, I was a jeweler by trade.
Oh, you're a jeweler by trade.
Yes, and a gemologist. My grandfather and my uncle were jewelers, so I grew up in the jewelry business. So when I opened my first store when I was 25 in Mission Viejo, And people would come in and ask for the owner, and I'd say, "Oh, I'm the owner." And they go, "Oh, is your dad here?" I go, "Oh, no, he has his own business," right? Because I looked so young. So I gained their trust that I was a diamond setter and a designer, and so
That's a lot of really different career paths that you managed to bring together, like fiber optics.
Yeah.
It's like it's amazing.
Yeah.
All of these different things that you were able to do, and simultaneously.
Yeah.
I mean, you could own businesses. You could be a funeral director. You can be a commissioner. You can do all of these things. It's quite impressive. Is there anything I missed? You're also a husband. You're a father. You've raised three children. Mm-hmm. Your youngest is the one or the oldest is the one that was in the custody battle that you had, which you won.
Yes, I won that. She's 32 now, happily married, lives in Jersey. Got her doctorate in artificial intelligence.
Amazing.
And I remember the court saying if she lived with me that, I'd screw her up. So I guess I won full custody.
Well, thank God you screwed her up.
Right? Right. I screwed her up really good.
Really good.
We joke about that, But, when I got divorced, like I said, there weren't really laws to protect, the trans community. Yeah. And she was with an attorney that actually thought he was going to write a book over this and set precedent-setting law. And I wasn't going to give up my daughter. She was at 2 at the time. And my family sat down. We talked as a family. My brother is the donor for all of my children. And we had a family discussion. Do I just let my ex take my daughter away and try to find her? We didn't have Facebook then. So where would I find her? When she turns 18, how do I find her? And so we made a decision to fight. We're not only fighting for my daughter, we're fighting for fathers' rights, because this is things that happen to fathers, period.
And
trans,
especially
not trans.
Back then, there was a lot of
and
that.
For the community. And my daughter, I had a right to have her father. And so we made that decision. I had different attorneys until finally the ACLU stepped in when I wrote to them, when I kind of ran out of money. And they stepped in, and it was a 3-year battle in and out of court. I was on TV. That's how I met
Was this
Michelle.
Was this the first battle that a trans man fighting
Yes.
for custody in the United States?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
You are a historical figure.
I was not going to give up. Yeah, you can look up the case.
That's
versus
a big
Vecchione.
deal. It didn't make it to the Supreme Court.
It didn't, because I won.
Because you won.
I
Thank
won.
goodness
I won
it didn't
the case.
have to go that far.
I won the case. And, TV would follow me from my house to the courtroom. They would follow me getting out of the car. And it was all over, the radio was all over the news. But I wasn't gonna give up on my little girl. And so I had every other weekend and then Wednesday overnights, which your typical father gets. And that was unacceptable for me. I was a good dad.
Yeah.
And regardless, they would ask me questions. It became all about me changing my sex. And it would be, why don't you ask me what's her favorite food? What's her favorite color?
Yeah.
What do I do with her during the day?
But they wanted to put you on trial.
I became on trial. So what she tried to do, my ex, was annul the marriage 5 different times. And in Orange County, fathers, got every other weekend, Wednesday overnights.
Was gay marriage acceptable, or same-sex marriage, was that legal back then?
No, in fact, they used my case for legalizing same-sex marriage.
That was the first one, the first time that it was actually supported and upheld.
Yes.
Wow.
So I was legally declared a man. Then they took me back saying, well, the courts didn't say you were legally a male. So then they had to go back and say I was legally a male. So I was declared legally a man, legally a male, and had the right. And I later on, and I wasn't fighting for custody. I always was 50-50.
Yeah.
Like she had a right to have her mom and her dad in it. But can you imagine in the courtroom, there was then, it was all about me. It was me on trial. Right. I even had to take IQ tests. Then it was high, and then they made me take it again. Oh. And it was higher because now I kind of knew what an IQ test was. And what does that...
studied.
What does that make a difference, what my IQ is of being a good father? So it became all about me, and the goal was to just take away, it was vengeance, take away a little girl. But I wasn't going to give up. My mom was on the stand, my father was on the stand, my brother. And what happened in it, if she had annulled the marriage, was successful, then my brother cannot come in because he was a known donor, because he gave up his parental rights to me. So the whole goal was to take away my parental rights. And I just wasn't going to, I was going to fight like hell to make sure that didn't happen.
Wow.
And I eventually won full custody.
Yeah, she didn't really get to see her daughter again.
No, my daughter kind of cut off all communication. She didn't find out till she was 10 about me, my daughter. So it was when she was 10 at that time, and I kept her in therapy, and we went in therapy, said, I think it's time for her to hear it from you. And I sat with her and I said, you know, Daddy, all those years when we had to go to court and cameras would follow us. And I told you when you were old enough, I would share with you. And I shared with her, well, you know, she loved Mulan, the movie. And I said, you know how Mulan?
Great movie.
I said, remember how she was really born a girl, but then she dressed as a boy and she was the warrior. And, and she says, yeah. And I said, it's kind of like Daddy. So Daddy was born female. She goes, I learned that in school because my daughter's really smart. And I said, yes. And I said, but Daddy had some things go wrong when Daddy was being made in Nana's tummy, and hormones. You learned about that? She goes, I know all about that. I said, okay. So Daddy actually changed and I became a boy. And she goes, oh. So I said, so the court case was kind of all about that. So she said, I don't care if you're a monkey, you're my daddy. Aww. And it still gets to me because it was hard because I didn't know if she would reject me.
Yeah.
I didn't know if she'd go, what?
I don't know.
You're supposed to be my mommy, or you're supposed to be that? Wait, Uncle Glenn is really my biological dad?
Oh, that's so interesting.
And then she figured out, that's why I don't have brown eyes like you, Daddy.
Oh.
So all of this was coming up, and I'm composing myself and saying, she goes, but you're my daddy because you took care of me. Mm-hmm. And you were there for me, Daddy. And you know what? You always said never give up. And now I know, Daddy, you never gave up. And you used to keep my picture in your pocket. And I know, and then she says, so I know you never gave up on me, Daddy, because I wouldn't be here now with you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Our kid's amazing.
Yeah. She's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And then later telling my other two children were.
Oh, she was part of that.
Part of that.
Yeah. What's the age gap between?
So my son is 24. My daughter's 32. He's 24. And my little one is 20.
Yeah. So your two youngest kids went to school with Blaze, I'm thinking.
Let's see.
Or the oldest one,
yeah,
for
the
sure.
oldest one might.
Or the middle
two
child.
12, yeah.
Yeah, the middle one.
So,
for
yeah,
sure.
my youngest, I think, did, yeah.
Yeah.
She graduated, so.
Yeah, that's really something. And did you and your wife, your current wife, did she help you raise the children? Or is she the mother of your two?
She's the mother of the two, of my son and my daughter.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was, in later on in that whole battle that was going, we met actually in my theater.
Oh.
I hired her as the choreographer.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And her cousins were in my theater. And we clicked. A director and a choreographer work very close together, and we just kind of just clicked.
Oh.
And then I had to tell her before I ever shared my thoughts about her that, I was attracted to her. I thought, it was the day before Valentine's Day, and we would meet all the time. And I would always say, can you show me scene 5 and 6 again? Because I just wanted to see her. Yeah. And I'm sure in her mind, she's thinking, God, this director must be dumb. Because I keep showing him these scenes. But I just wanted to see her. And it was the day before Valentine's Day, and we would meet at Claim Jumper. And I wanted to bring her something, and they had cookies, but the cookies said, be mine. And I thought, I can't give her a cookie that just says, be mine. I'm thinking, how can I scrape it off? And I thought, oh, what the heck? I gave her the cookie. And she said, I never thought you'd ask.
Oh, wow.
So then I said, there's something I need to share with you.
Oh, she had no idea.
She had no idea. Yeah. So I shared who I was. It puzzled her at first. Now she worked at Disneyland, so she's thinking, "Are you gay or what's the?" She was confused, and I shared the
You
details.
don't consider yourself gay, right?
No.
Yeah,
I've never been
I don't
attracted
think
to
that
men.
would make any sense.
Yeah, I'm very heterosexual.
Yeah.
And
wait, what did you didn't say heterosexual? You said something else.
no, heterosexual.
Oh, you did say
yeah,
that.
I always,
Okay.
yeah. Always attracted to women.
Okay.
That was half my
Always.
confusion
Always.
growing up. Was why was I,
Yeah.
with girls they were attracted to
Yeah.
guys, and
You
I was like,
knew.
oh, I just
You
knew I wasn't.
That is an interesting little paradox
Yeah,
there that
and-
you right?
Yeah.
You can change your sex and all of a sudden you go from being gay to heterosexual.
Yeah.
But it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and so she had to ponder that for a little bit, and think about that. I remember she called me 3 days later. I sweat out 3 days of going, oh, I met this great person, but obviously we've been together 30 years.
Because so
Yeah,
apparently
yeah,
she
we've been
thought
married.
about it for 2 minutes
Yeah,
and said,
yeah, 26 years we've been married, and we have two other children.
Yeah.
That she went through that, but in it, it's interesting when you say going from gay to this was in those days I thought I must be gay because I'm female attracted to other female.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh, okay, until I read the book thinking that's not me. But prior to that, I always loved to dance. So I'd go to the secret gay bars we had, like Deja Vu's and, doing here. And I remember going on the night, and I remember I always kind of wore overalls. I covered myself. And I remember someone saying, why don't you show off your body? And I remember saying, oh, you like your body?
Oh.
And I remember her going, oh, there's another name for you. And I went, there is? And that was like, oh my gosh, I thought I was this. Now there's another name. And that's what really brought me to the library, to find out what's that other name. If I'm, not a homosexual,
Yeah.
What am I? And that's what got me to start researching what label am I?
Yeah.
Who am I?
There's got to be, I can't be the only one. Like, you can't
Yes,
be.
I can't be.
There's
I
millions
can't
of
be the only
people. I
people.
can't be the only one.
Yeah, yeah.
So interesting. So, in light of all of that, there's been so much controversy concerning, trans people and whether you're binary or non-binary. Like, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, how we should be approaching this as a society? Does it matter?
Well, I have a lot of opinions about that.
I'm sure.
Coming from the older,
Yeah.
number one, our suicide rate is very high in the LGBT community.
Yes.
And I blame a lot of this on is uneducated, ignorant people,
Yes.
especially when their children come out to their parents. And I will tell you, in my theater group that I have, and it's children's theater I had, there was, and the kids would always come out to me, Mr. Josh. My wife and I became their safe place. And one of our performers' parents said to me, I'd rather have a dead child than a gay child.
Terrible.
Very
thing to
religious
say.
group. Eventually that child tried to commit suicide twice. And thank God when this person turned 18, it got away from her parents. And that's the issue. The strong issue I have now is in parents feeling that this is a horrible curse to their children. And it's not. Their children just have a different sexual preference maybe than them.
Yeah.
And that's really all it is. Who you're loving, who you're sleeping with. Okay, as someone diagnosed with gender dysphoria was still considered a mental disorder.
Right.
We can explain, that's a great thing to talk about, how gender dysphoria comes about, or transsexualism, and even including homosexuality in that. But we need to be servants to each other, serve our community, and be loving to each other. If you're religious, that's what Jesus would do. They wear these bracelets. What would Jesus do? This is what Jesus would do. This is what religious people should do, is be loving and accepting of all people and not be judgmental. What are our commandments?
Yeah, I hear
Love
you.
your neighbor as yourself.
I don't understand it, but I'm not going to judge religious people. I'm going to let them judge.
Yeah, and they do a good job of that, don't they? So I think with the community, that's why I love doing Mission Viejo Pride.
Oh yes,
Where we got
yes,
to meet, which was,
it's a really really fun activity.
yeah,
really
and
nice.
that was our second event that you came to.
Yeah.
That was a struggle in the community of Mission Viejo
Yeah.
and with our city council, but we did it and it was very successful. I think it opened up a lot of doors for residents in our community, a lot of parents. And then that was as the time of people knowing one of their city commissioner was
You know
a
what? I
trans
think
person.
it makes a community more acceptable for me anyway, as a place that I would want to live, that the community is accepting of people that are different. And because until LGBTQ people become the majority,
Yeah, yeah,
until that day,
yeah.
we have to, the majority of people have to accept that it's better to live in a diverse place than than one note. I'd rather live with a symphony of people than one note.
Yeah, I love that too. I'd rather live in a symphony with people than one note.
Yeah, I really would.
Yeah,
Because, that's what sounds, that's what sounds interesting to me.
yeah. I think more people would rather have the symphony.
I think so too. And
Yeah.
that's why you got your Pride Parade.
Yeah.
And it makes Mission Viejo a more desirable place to live.
It does. It does.
For people that like to hear symphonies.
Yes. Like
Those
that.
one note people, well, they can
Yeah.
they can go live somewhere else.
And you know what's so interesting within Mission Viejo? It's the senior community that was so accepting.
Can you imagine how many of these people have had grandchildren, children, co-workers, all kinds of people in their lives that have come out to them eventually, and maybe with various stories of heartbreak and not being able to be authentic. And they've seen that because they're elderly now. They have wisdom, these
Yes.
people.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
and they know that you can't live in an abundant world if you're afraid of people because of how they present themselves.
Yep. Yes. In fact, I gave a speech to a book club, and it was a senior book club. There was probably about 15 people there, and they didn't realize I was the guest speaker because they read a book, Honeybee, and the book was about a trans girl in it, and so they were going to have a guest speaker. Well, they didn't. They just thought I was coming to be with them in the book club. They didn't realize I was the guest speaker.
Wow.
And it was I spoke for over 2.5 hours. And at the end, these people had changed their mind. You know why? Because they were educated now. And because they knew me prior.
Yes.
So how are they going to judge me now when they've already known me prior and know who I am? And I love that, especially the religious ones said, how can we help the community?
Oh, this is really beautiful. You brought up a really important point, and one that I've tried to communicate. And I preach to the choir here, but I've tried to communicate this to everyone, that it's proximity. When we get to see you, Josh, and see the magnificent life that you've lived and the humanitarian things that you do and how much you really love people, how can we not be excited about people that are in the LGBTQ community as much as we are about anybody else? Because we see that you are just trying to live your best life. You care about people. You're a good citizen. So why should we have a problem with it? Why do we have a problem with people being authentic? But seeing the great life that you're living, it makes it more palatable for some people that have never had an exposure. It's a lot easier to judge people when you are not near them, seeing how they live. And I think that just the fact that you came out and that you've been open about this, you're willing to talk about it, that you go to a book club and educate people. I mean, these are the things that make the difference, Josh. And I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Because that takes a lot of courage, especially in Orange County.
Right, especially here.
I mean, it's kind of amazing to me that this is the place that had the first custody battle between a trans man and a woman, and that this is the place where same-sex marriage was affirmed by the court system. I mean, that's kind of amazing that happened in this place where I started my law career.
Yeah.
At the same time that you were going through that custody battle, I was in the second year of my legal career.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
Wow.
Boy, have things changed since I started practicing law.
Oh, so much.
I mean, yeah, when I was an undergraduate, we were in my constitutional law class, we were studying Bowers versus Hardwick. And, maybe this would foretell things to come, but but I actually wrote my paper on that case because I found it so fascinating that the government was interfering in the private lives of people and making it a crime for two men to be together sexually. That's what that case was about.
Yeah,
It came
yeah.
out of Florida, and it was a case where their attorney general in Florida had gone after, I think he'd gone after Hardwick, because Hardwick had been in a sexual relationship with a man. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the Supreme Court affirmed that we have a right to privacy, and the things that we do in our private lives should not be governed by the law. But then, here you end up in court 10 years, actually not even 10 years. That was in 96. I graduated from my undergraduate degree in 92. So that was only 4 years later.
Yep.
4 years later, we're seeing these cases because we didn't really have any precedents for it.
Right.
We were just starting to understand. People were just starting to come out and be authentic, take a stand. Because you can be a bystander and you can pretend that this isn't your problem. But it's your problem, everybody, because everybody knows somebody like Josh. They just haven't told you yet.
They don't know.
Or they're not born yet.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but they're coming.
Because my whole case was it was same-sex marriage. That's
Yeah.
what they tried to say. And that I wasn't fit to be a father.
Right.
That was my whole case.
Right. But we
So-
needed that case. That
That's-
case affirmed a lot of things. It affirmed that when you're transgender, that, whether or not it's same sex or not, it's a real marriage.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's really important.
And she knew
Yeah. Yes.
because she tried to claim that she didn't know.
Yeah, but I mean, just think about it. If they had not affirmed this marriage, I mean, what about all the people that got married to somebody that was one sex and then that person changed later? So now they get is their marriage annulled? I mean, how does
That would have
work,
came out of
right?
the woodwork. I think from my case, if I would have lost my case,
Yeah.
which the ACLU talked to me in a lot of detail, if I would have lost,
Yeah.
would other cases be their marriage invalid?
Yeah. What happens
Could
now?
the other spouse say that? Hey, they're trans, so then it's
Right.
invalid. I want custody of the children. So, I knew I had a weight of an entire community, and
Yeah.
I wasn't going to give up. And I was there in that courtroom with my parents by my side
Amazing.
that time, and proudly would walk out with the cameras, and
Yeah.
they would film me, and sometimes cameramen would walk backwards, would go, I hope you get your daughter, and they would
Yeah.
be going backwards, and people were very kind to me. Like, it wasn't, people were saying, people who would wait outside the courtroom, and I remember opposing counsel said, we're going to put you all over TV if you don't just give up your daughter. And I said, well, go ahead.
Yeah, please.
'Cause
I want everyone to see what
And
you're doing here.
It worked the opposite
Yeah.
for them. It did not work in their favor. And people would stop me and say, I hope you get your daughter, or I saw you on TV. It was very heartwarming to know that people were invested in this case, and because it was basically a father.
Yeah.
And other, the Fathers Coalition and other things had come to me and knew I was fighting that battle. That's what I was fighting.
Yeah.
There's several battles actually going on at the same time.
Does your daughter have any relationship with her bio mom?
No.
None at all.
No,
So this woman walked away after putting you through that. She
All
walked
that,
away.
and then my daughter felt that she was toxic and that she didn't want to have, knowing the whole story of what happened, she felt she was toxic. She felt now that, my wife now was the positive mother figure in her life. Mm-hmm. And so she made that decision on her own to do it. Even when she left for college, I said, I don't have any issue if you want to connect with her. She goes, absolutely not, Dad.
Well,
So
she made that decision. She's
made-
smart.
she
She's got a
made that
PhD
decision.
in artificial
Yeah,
intelligence,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I trust her decision making.
Yeah. So-
Wow. So this is there anything else you want to share about your daughter? Anything else that's interesting about her life?
Well, she, right before she went to college, she actually came out that she was gay. We weren't surprised because she never had crushes. When she was younger, all her girlfriends have crushes on boys bands and she never did. She never had crushes on boys. And so then she went to OSHA, and then, she always had pal around with her girlfriends. So we had a thought, a suspicion, I wonder if she's gay. And she had came out, and we joked when she came out. We said, my wife and I looked at it, said, "Oh, thank God we didn't raise a heterosexual." That's a joke. And she was with the girl she was dating. She goes, "I told you my parents are cool." Anyway, so she had, felt that, and is married to a lovely woman who's an attorney. And they live in Jersey to
That's
a
so
lovely,
far.
lovely Italian family, a big giant family,
Wow.
wonderful wedding. So,
Wow. That sounds like, if you let your child be who they are, you'll have a good life with them, and they'll have a good life.
just let them be.
Don't fight it. Don't fight the system.
And I'll tell you something. My mom has this story. I think every parent should really look. After I told them about me and we weren't speaking, they were actually going to Europe and New York. And she would send me postcards to my child. It would never say my son, would just say to my child. But they were writing, sending me postcards. Well, she stopped in New York, right? She had a dream that there was a firing squad. And I was on the box, and they put the hood over me. And they had a firing squad. And they said, "Do you want a gun?" And she was like, "No." And the firing squad shot me. And they said, "Go get your child." And she went, and when she pulled off the hood, she said, "It was Josh. It was you." And I said, "Mom, it's me. I'm still here." And that was the turning point for my mom. She had to grieve losing her daughter, her only daughter.
Yeah.
But she saw she still had her child.
Yeah.
And that was the turning point for my mom and my dad. And when they came back, they said, "Come over for dinner." And that was it.
They made
We
peace
were
with
together.
it.
And for other parents to realize, grieve. And I tell kids too who are in transition,
Yeah.
let your parents grieve, because you are their son, but now you're their daughter. They're grieving losing their son. And they're in an accepting mode to accept now they have a daughter, or vice versa.
Yeah.
They got to grieve they're losing their daughter, all those dreams they had.
That's really what it comes down to.
It comes down to that.
I
But
know.
let them grieve that
Yeah.
and understand that.
Did that go through
that
your
time.
head a little bit with your daughter when she told you, even as a trans man, when your daughter said, "I'm gay"? Did for 1 minute did it come through your head? Oh wow, now she's gonna have a harder life. I'm not gonna get to be the dad at her wedding and have grandchildren traditional way.
What I thought was, now you're in that glass house.
Yeah. Okay. So you did have that. Even you
have
that.
this harder. Okay,
Yeah.
we have this life. We have this thing.
This is the thing.
You're gonna have a harder life.
Yeah.
Yes, you're with a partner, you don't have children naturally, you're going to do artificial insemination.
Yeah, everything's going to be harder for you.
All those, when now you have to meet somebody that does, someone that comes from a good family that also accepts their daughter. You're going to meet.
That's a big bill.
All of that,
and
comes around in thinking that. And I remember my little one was only 5 then. I remember her saying, "I guess I'm the only one marrying a boy."
and has that stayed?
To this point, yes, she is. So
yeah.
But of course, as a parent, it was like, it's a harder path. It
is.
We're not in that world yet. But you know what my dream and my goal is, that people don't have to come out of the closet because they never had to go in the closet.
You know what? I think that is. Nailed it.
I got to make a T-shirt.
We got to get there,
because that's my thing. You never have to come out because you never had to go in.
If it was safer to be who you are meant to be, hey, it's not safe to be Jewish in some parts of the world.
Of course
I wouldn't come out of the closet of being Jewish in places that it's not safe. And we have to get to a place where people feel safe, 100% safe.
And we're going backwards.
Oh, aren't we though?
We're going backwards.
I feel that
and
way
that's
too,
what frightens me.
because it's fear. It's fear
fear,
driven.
ignorance. When I explain how I came about, people then, "Oh, really? Oh, that's how you make people like you?" And and our terms that we use. And I think that's important to understand.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say, oh, because mine's considered a birth defect, that's okay, that makes it acceptable. But some people, it is. They need to have a science to it, or not that you just feel this way. However they come about to understanding, I'm fine with that. But I don't want people to be shoved further in the closet.
Yeah. Do you think, and this is my thought, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
that there was such a push to make it safe for people to be whatever they want to be? You know, people were saying that they were chair sexual. They were different, all kinds of crazy things, you know, whatever that means.
Yeah, that'd be a whole other podcast
Right?
for you and I. Yeah. If you invite me back, we'll have a whole time of that discussion.
I mean, it's just it's something to talk about. I think,
Yeah.
you know, there was just such a I don't know, like it felt like it was being kind of pushed in our faces. I mean, I was getting screamed at daily by my daughter because I wasn't doing people's pronouns correctly. I was trying, but I kept getting slammed for that. And even now I probably screw it up all over the place, but my heart's in the right place. And so I'm wondering, you know, if it hadn't swung so far overcorrecting for this problem, if we would be not overcorrecting now. You know, it feels like we're overcorrecting for what happened maybe, you know, for the several years my kids were still living at home.
Yeah.
And could correct me every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
But yeah, I feel like we just keep overcorrecting, and we just haven't really figured out like where we want to be as a society. Like, can we be abundant? Can we just say we love people just any way they come out? Because God doesn't make mistakes.
Exactly.
Hello?
And I would get that all the time. People of faith would tell me, you're saying that God made a mistake with you. I said, no. If I was born without a leg and surgically they put a leg on me, you would think that's wonderful. Oh, God worked through the surgeons.
Yeah.
Because I put on a kickstand, you got an issue.
Right?
So
I love that.
you know,
Yeah.
But I think you're right. The pendulum, and I would say this to the younger generation, and I do, is you have to pick your battles because you feel the fire of the haters. And what's happened is you've made that pendulum swing so far that now there's laws created against us. Oh. We've come so far. We are going backwards. The older generation like us fought so hard to not create laws against us, to get insurance to pay.
Yes.
To have our driver's license change, our birth certificates change.
I mean, the important things. The important
Go in
things.
a restroom and not, like when I changed, I had to have a letter on me that said I wasn't impersonating a male, or I could be arrested going in a restroom. And I tell the generation to watch the movies like Milk. You need to know where far we have come. That in the 1940s, interracial marriage, you couldn't have. It was white people couldn't marry other people.
Right.
I have an interracial marriage.
Right.
So I tell the younger generation, you don't realize how far we've come. And what's happened now, you have muddied the waters. And because of that, there are laws now against us.
Yeah. And it could get worse.
And it's going to get worse. And I always had an issue with pronouns because I knew this was going to happen. Now, because of that, your forms that you fill out, doctor's office says sex at birth. So you're going to see that.
That doesn't help your cause.
Sex at birth. Don't fill it out.
Do they need to know that for any medical reason?
Well, now it's on forms. Certain legal forms, you have to put what it is. If you're getting a legal form, then what is your sex at birth? Now, my birth certificate is changed. And it says male. Being brought up Catholic, all of my baptismal, First Holy Communion confirmation papers are all male with my name, Joshua, on it.
Good.
Which did come up in court. Wow. And all of that's been changed. The Catholic Church does recognize the trans community and has changed all my paperwork. So they have come a far way. But because we've poked the bear too many times or in the wrong places, we're now creating laws against us. Now, a government employee, their insurance will not pay for any sex reassignment.
That's
surgery.
terrible.
We have a law. We now have the SAB, sex at birth. I know we're going to get to a point where insurance Other insurance companies will hop on board and say, we're not paying for
This is not
any
good.
transgender surgeries. Years ago, Disneyland was the first insurance company that paid for it. You had more trans people working at Disney because they would
Yeah.
pay for the surgery. So I think the pendulum is way over here. We've poked it, and that's another reason that I do talk to the young kids, or the young kids who
Yeah, how do you feel about that? Like in terms of how young should kids be allowed to transition, and is there a difference for you whether they medically transition, surgically transition? Like where do you draw do you think there's a place, or is
Well-
it on an individual basis? Like how?
I talk to kids who are older now who you look at their 3-year-old videos. Like at Christmas, I wanted to play with my brother's trucks. I didn't want dolls.
Right.
You
right.
know,
I mean, you
things
knew.
like that.
You knew.
And I've seen other kids who have changed in their younger years, didn't want dolls, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But I believe in hormone blockers because it's stopping puberty. It is completely reversible. People go, oh, they're on hormone. Yes, let them, because they don't go through puberty. So the girls aren't having a period. Their breasts aren't growing. A boy's testicles aren't descending. They're not growing facial hair. Maybe they're not growing an Adam's apple.
So you would have preferred that
I prefer...
if you had that. If your parents
Oh,
had
I would have
offered
loved
that,
that.
it would have
Having
loved
my
it.
period was the worst thing of my life, or growing breasts. I mean, that was like
And if you had
horrible.
changed your mind when you were before you decided to have sex reassignment, you could have just stopped
just
taking the
stop. You
hormones,
stop
and then
hormone.
you go through puberty.
And you go through puberty.
It happens, and you
Yes,
go forward.
and you go from there. There aren't young kids, as the rumors out there. Oh, there's children having surgery. No, there aren't children under 18. No doctor is doing surgery on minor children. But I believe in hormone blockers. I believe in taking hormones at a young age because it is irreversible. Because we have to remember, your gender is between your ears, not between your legs. Between your legs is your sex organs. That's why the word transgender I really don't like either, because it's your sex organs you're changing to match the gender that's between your ears, which is developed in gestation
So
period.
what's a better term?
Well, we're written in the medical books as gender dysphoria. That will be your medical term, having
Okay.
a dysphoria. But Harry Benjamin coined in the 40s
And this is your okay.
is transsexualism, because you are changing your sex organs.
Yes.
That's what you're doing.
Yes.
Transgender was
It's just
that
the outside,
the
your
outside.
appearance.
Yes.
That's it.
So transgender, Victoria Prince, who made up that term transgender, is a full-time transvestite. The difference, a transvestite is someone who does not want to change their gender,
Right.
but chooses to dress in both genders.
Yeah. Like a drag queen.
Drag queen,
perfect.
totally. So transgender, I have no issue with it. I do when it comes to me, because I'm not trans anymore. I'm legally a male. I'm legally a man.
Yeah.
I've already done the transition. So what's between my legs now matches what's between my ears, because your brain is what changes first. So your brain is either A or B. If you want to say male or female, I don't care.
Yeah.
But it is, and there's no they.
Yeah. You're transsexual. You're
Transsexual.
You changed your sex
To
End of
match
story.
what I felt between my ears. That was done. My mom had miscarriages, so she took the DES drug, which is a long, big word for it, for miscarriages. So when there's a hormone wash in the first trimester of period, we're all female fetuses, which a lot of people don't know that. We are all female fetuses in the beginning, and then there's a rush of hormones. And those hormones do the brain changes. So it tells the body to continue to grow female, or there's a rush of testosterone, which now the clitoris grows out and becomes a penis. The vagina's closing, becomes testicles. The body now grows male. Something interrupts that hormone wash. So in my case, I'm typical female.
Yeah.
There was a rush of testosterone. My brain went
Yeah.
male.
So you get both
Brain
things.
B or A, whatever you want to call me.
Yeah.
Then something happened in that hormone wash that the testosterone stopped. Well, my mom was taking shots
Yeah.
of estrogen.
So there you go.
So there you go. And the opposite way, the same thing. The body transitions to male, and then all of a sudden, there's all this.
Yeah.
So that's what creates people like me. It's a very simple
Yeah.
thing that really happens. So what happens is we live with this dysphoria of feeling we feel this way. It's like if you woke up tomorrow, your breast fell off, and you grew a penis,
Wow.
what would you do? You would play with it for a little bit. Figure,
And then
oh,
I'd go
okay,
get
this
a
is
job and
interesting.
make a lot more money than I would have before.
Yeah, right. But you wouldn't feel male.
Yeah, no.
No, you would still feel a woman. And how I explain to some women who have a mastectomy for breast cancer, what you feel like at first is, I'm not a whole woman.
Yeah.
I'm speaking for you, but I'm
Yeah.
feeling for women who have said, I
No,
don't feel
you're
like a whole
right.
woman.
You're
Or
right.
now I have implants, or I was young, I can't breastfeed because I had cancer young and I have implants.
Yeah.
What they feel of just losing breasts, that feeling
Yeah.
is the dysphoria that you feel when your brain is one way, but you look another way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember bounding the breast and having that.
For the
and
prom.
I wish I could have done it at prom and wore the tux. Now you probably could, but then you couldn't. But you hide all that.
Yeah.
You have to hide all that. And even in transition, you're in that period of, is it a he, is it a she? Do
Yeah.
I say sir? Do I say ma'am? And bounding yourself, you can't breathe,
Yeah. Ugh.
with the ace bandage. And then I used to make a sock and I used to stuff it and make testicles and put it so when you go dancing, you had a,
You had a package.
but then you go to the beach and everything's wet and you're
wow.
squishing yourself. So, there was years before I had enough money to actually, have surgery, which is a very difficult surgery going my way. But, it's what I had to do if I was going to continue to live. That was my way of saying, how do I live? This was it.
Wow. So interesting. Really, really is another interesting thing. And I have to talk to my friend who's a urologist.
Yeah.
Who went to Stanford, and I believe he graduated right around the time you were getting your sex assignment.
Oh, interesting. With Dr. Lobb. He was probably...
I think that they probably worked together. And because my friend, when he moved to Orange County, he became the transgender specialist at the hospital that he worked at because he was from San Francisco and had seen a few people with the surgeries.
He
that
might have
had
been there on mine. Who knows?
He
right?
may have been.
Yes.
So
we'll have to connect.
I know.
Is he retired now, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
might
is.
have been there.
He
with
may have.
Dr.
I'm
Lobb.
gonna ask him about that.
And at Stanford, we couldn't be in the big hospital. We had to be in the older hospital, and the nurses had to volunteer to be with us because that was kind of during the AIDS epidemic then. And Dr. Lobb, he got a lot of flack working with people. So my surgery was developed from soldiers, World War I, World War II, that would actually have their genitalia blown off or dismembered from landmines and such.
Wow.
So that's how they came about how to do my surgery. And Dr. Donald Lobb was on the forefront of doing it at Stanford University.
Fascinating. That's. I'm glad that they were able to use it for something that would make so many people happy. in so many different ways I could never imagine.
Yes. And, and it was odd at first, all of a sudden I had this different genitalia.
Right?
I had to get used to, and riding a bike was something different.
Oh, wow. I can't
other-
imagine you enjoy that very much as a man.
Is it? Yeah, it was a whole lot. No, it was a whole other different ball game.
Yeah, literally.
So, yeah. Art. Yeah.
Wow.
I want to thank you, Jeanne, so much for inviting me for here to speak. My purpose for being here is to create a world that no one has to come out of the closet because they never had to go into the closet.
Beautiful.
So hopefully today we've educated some people
I hope so.
and bring more of an understanding for the LGBT community.
Because people that know you, I'm fairly certain they know you are a transsexual. So we're preaching to the choir. So hopefully with the shorts that we send out throughout the universe, people will see you and see what a successful human being looks like that happened to be a transsexual and is living a great life and very abundant and generous with everyone that you meet and come in contact with. I see that about you.
Thank you.
Blaze It Forward is a campaign my family started in 2018 after our son Blaze was murdered. Blaze It Forward provides the inspiration to thousands of people to repair the world with intentional acts of kindness. If you would like to learn more about Blaze and how you can make a difference, check out www.blazebernstein.org or join our Facebook group at #BlazeItForward. You can also check out my website for this podcast at www.peptalkswithjeanne.com. There you can follow along with my podcasting adventures and learn more about my fascinating guests and their passion projects. I would like to thank all of the volunteers who help make my philanthropic endeavors a reality. Today that includes my producer, Eli Moskowitz, all of the volunteer crew members who join us, and a special thank you to my son, Jay Bernstein, for the original theme song you hear at the beginning and ending of each show. This has been another episode of Pep Talks with Jeanne. Until next time, keep on making this world a better place.